Hey there, Dungeon Crawl fans, and welcome back to Dungeon Crawlers Anonymous. My name is Ron, and this is the next installment in the gameplay series for The Hunters AD 2114. If you are just joining us for this series, you should definitely check out the unboxing video, the setup video, and the previous gameplay videos, which are all linked below. This is the, well, I guess it's the 6th video in my series on this game already, so definitely lots to see if you're just starting out. Otherwise, if you have watched everything, then welcome to the Wasteland, where we are going to be attempting to repair a car while being assaulted by some giant rats. Yes, as you saw last time in our last episode, we decided to take on one of the missions, and the mission was to do some car repairs. And it turns out that while we were out there getting ready to do some repairs, this car, which is represented by this token right here, was actually being kind of chewed on by a bunch of giant rats. So I've set up the entirety of the combat already. I've gotten everything pretty much ready to go. I got our two characters set up, and a couple things that you might want to take note of. I did a little bit of rearranging. Since we got a submachine gun for our recon, I went ahead and gave her pistol to the soldier. Now, I anticipate the soldier always being in melee combat, or 90% of the time being in melee combat, because he's so good at it, but I thought it would make sense for him to have a ranged weapon since we had an extra one. Obviously, she now has the submachine gun, which is going to be great. And I think that's pretty much it for any changes. I've got everything up to date based on all the craziness that's happened in the last couple episodes of us exploring New Jensen, El Infierno, and beyond. And now let's take a look at the mission book to see what's actually going on with this particular encounter. Upon seeing you, a few of the rats scuttle away from the wreck and hide nearby. Unfortunately, the squealing sounds have attracted others, and you see their dreadful silhouettes emerging from the darkness. If you don't want to become dinner, you'll need to reach the vehicle and repair it as quickly as possible. It's in pretty rough shape, but if you can keep the rats away long enough to get the engine running, it might get you back to town in one piece. Now, one thing that I think is really encouraging about this mission, it makes me excited to continue my playthrough of the Hunters, is this is only the second mission in the book. Well, it's the third after the intro scenario. It's only the second one we've encountered, and it's very unique. It has a totally unique kind of setup. It's not just killing some dudes and moving on. It's got a secondary, or it's got a primary objective that actually isn't fighting monsters at all. It's about getting this car repaired. So basically in this mission, we're going to be trying to repair a vehicle that's out on the board, and it's just represented by a token. I have like a barricade token. This vehicle is right here. We are going to be spawning here, and then there's a bunch of rats already on the board, and then more will actually be spawning in later turns down below. So we're going to need to repair this car before we get overwhelmed with rats. And the main way that we do that is the person who has the battery, whoever has the battery, needs to spend an interact action in order to repair the vehicle, and they need to do that twice in a row. They need to be able to do it 2 times, and if they get interrupted at any point, as in, meaning primarily if they enter melee combat, then they have to start over with their repair to get 2 in a row again. And they can't attempt to repair if they're in melee combat already. So, in other words, we need to keep this space clear and allow one of our characters to stand in here and to burn 2 actions repairing the vehicle without any rats kind of coming in and harassing us. There's a couple other interesting things. There are 2 findings tokens here, which at the end of the map we'll roll to see what they are. They can either be an energy cell, a junk, or some chemicals, I believe is what that is. Lastly, the other interesting thing is that down here are actually spawn points for additional rats. And for 2 characters, starting on the second turn, we're going to be deploying 2 enemies each in these spaces. So we're going to be very quickly overwhelmed by rats. And we don't get a bonus for however many rats we kill or anything like that. So we want to do this as quickly and as painlessly as we can. I try to get it set up so that you can see everything in one shot. So here we've got 2 combat tiles that we're going to be doing our combat on. This token right here is the car. We're going to ignore any of these symbols on it, so it's not a barricade. It's just a token that we can interact with, and it's on this space here. And the battery is being held by our recon. So our recon is going to be spending most of their time focusing on trying to get the car repaired while our soldier is going to be doing their best to protect the recon. Now, there are some findings tokens down here that we can try to go after. I'm not super excited about going after these just because this seems like it could be a mission that's very easy for us to get overwhelmed. But at the same time, I do love loot. And as you know, this game does not have a loot deck, but it does have these findings tokens where you get to roll and see what the loot is. And that's really hard for me to resist. So I'll probably try to get at least one of them. Let's take a look at the rats combat card real quick. Now, these guys are pretty straightforward. They're biological. They have 1 hit point each, so not very strong. Their attack or their AI tree is very simple. They're going to make a melee attack if they can. If they can't, they're going to either move 1 and make a melee attack or move 2. And remember, they get 2 actions per turn. They do have poison. Now, this is pretty interesting. When performing an attack on each, and this is the symbol for target number equals 1, but I think what they're really, again, I'm trying to interpret here, but I think what they're really saying is on a result of a 1, a die roll result of a 1, we roll an additional d6. And on a 1 to 3, the character becomes poisoned. A 4 to 6, nothing happens. And we know how bad poison is. We've already dealt with that from our training exercise, so I really don't want to get poisoned. So I'm going to do my best to minimize the amount of times that we're even getting attacked. You can note here that they roll 2 dice on a melee attack, and their target number is a 3, so they're trying to roll a 3 or lower in order to hit. They have 0 armor, and like I said, only 1 hit point. So I think these guys are going to be pretty easy to chew through, but with the number that are going to be spawning and stuff, I think it's still very easy for us to get overwhelmed. I have already gone in depth on how all of the combat rules and stuff work in this game in our gameplay 1 video, which you can find a link for in the description below. So I am going to be doing my best to go through this combat a little more quickly, just to show you how smooth this game actually is. It does move much faster than we did in that video. So I won't be explaining everything, but if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask in the comments, and I'll be happy to explain kind of what I was doing or why I was making an action that I was making. Lastly, I did go ahead and pre-choose our hands for our 2 mercenaries, or not mercenaries, our 2 hunters. So their hands are all preset. I'm trying to focus on the soldiers, basically going to try to get in here and do some damage and then have some cards to continue to be melee heavy, and our recon, I'm just trying to get them into place as quickly as I can. Now, it seems to me that if I play my cards right, I might be able to repair this on the very second turn, just by having a move and interact, and then next turn another interact, and we could be done. I don't know what the rats are going to do. I guess I do know what they're going to do, but I'm not going to overly plan. I'm just going to jump in there and see what happens. Now, in this particular mission, unlike the last mission we did, we do get to go first, so we're going to start with the hunter's actions. We are going to start with the soldier for this combat, and I think what we're going to have the soldier do is pretty straightforward. So in his hand here, I've got a card for moving 2 spaces. So his first action, remember everybody gets 2 actions on their turn, his first action is going to be go ahead and discard this move card to move 2 spaces. So we'll discard that, and then we'll move him 1, 2. Now he's in the space with the car. And then the other card that I picked for him to have on his first turn that I think is going to be really useful is this Quick Strikes card, which says move 1 space and then melee attack 3. So I'm going to go ahead and play this as my second action, which is going to allow me to move 1 space and then make a melee attack with a target number of 3. So we'll go ahead and discard this. We'll move our soldier 1 space. Now remember, you can move diagonally or orthogonally in this game. So we're going to go ahead and move 1 more space and engage this rat here. So now we're engaged in melee combat. Facing no longer really matters in melee combat. And we're just going to make an attack against this guy and see if we can get rid of him right away. So in this case, our melee attack is going to be a target number of 3 plus whatever else we have. So if we take a look at our machete here, the target number on the machete actually is +1. So now our target number is 4. And we get to roll a number of dice equal to our strength skill plus anything from the melee weapon. So in this case, we get to actually roll 2 dice, plus his strength skill is 2, so we get to roll 4 dice, and our target number is 4 or better. So we're going to go ahead and grab our 4 dice here, and remember we're trying to roll under, so we need to roll 4 or below in order to hit this rat. Now we got 3 hits on the rat, and the rat's only got 1 hit point. It does not have any armor, so it is immediately removed. Remember, every hit does 1 point of damage, so technically I did 3 points of damage to this guy. He's only got 1 health, so we're just going to pull him off the board, and we'll put him in the reserves in case he spawns later. And already I'm feeling pretty confident about this. That was very simple, straightforward, and easy to take care of. So that will conclude the soldier's turn. Next, we're going to go ahead and have the recon take their action. Now, I preset their hand mostly around some defensive cards as well as just getting them in place. So I'm going to go ahead and play this move 2 spaces card, which is just like the one we played from the soldier, to allow our recon to move 2 spaces. So we'll discard that, and then we're just going to move 1, 2. Now then, all we need to do next is we can begin our interactions to actually start repairing this thing by just being here in this space. So I'm thinking about just doing that and making it happen. Now at this point, I could actually just begin interacting with the car and repairing it, and I'm not entirely sure why I wouldn't, but in the sake of hoping to maybe get a little bit of loot, maybe let's make a ranged attack with our submachine gun. So in this case, we're going to spend our shot card to make a ranged attack 2. Just as a reminder, in order to calculate how we're going to be doing our attack roll for a ranged attack, we don't have a stat that we're looking at like we did in melee. We just take the target number of the card, and then we look at the range here on the weapon, and that will determine what the other target number is. So in this case, it looks like this submachine gun has a maximum range of 2 spaces. And at 2 spaces, it's going to be at target number 0. So in other words, our target number is going to remain 2. And at 2 range, it's going to be 3 dice. And just to confirm here, we are 2 spaces away from this rat as well as this rat, and I'm going to go ahead and target this rat. The other thing about the submachine gun is it does have this full auto, which allows us to attack 2 targets in the square, but there's only 1 target, so I'm not worried about it. So in this case, overall, we can just see that we're going to be rolling 3 dice, and we're going to be targeting 2 or better on those 3 dice. So let's see if we take care of that rat. Now remember, we're hoping to get a 2 or lower, so not a lot of opportunity here, but let's see what happens. Okay, well, we rolled a 5, a 6, and a 3. So unfortunately, that is a miss. That does mean we don't actually do any damage to that rat, which is really unfortunate. I don't have any way that I can augment that. So that is actually going to end the recon's turn, and we'll start with the rats. So for the giant rats, their AI is fairly simple. Just as a reminder, if they're on a space, they're just going to go ahead and make a melee attack. Otherwise, they're going to move 1 to target, make a melee attack, or move 2 to target. Now, for melee attacks, remember, in order to determine who the target is, it's going to be whoever is within range, and then who rolls the least defense dice. Now, in our case, we don't roll any defense dice against melee, so it's chosen randomly. So for this rat, it's really straightforward because he's going to move 1 and melee attack the soldier here. So let's go ahead and do that first. We're going to activate this rat first by moving him 1 space and then having him make a melee attack against the target. Now, as a reminder, the rat rolls 2 dice and its target number is 3 or lower. And then if we get a 1 on any of those dice, we have to check to see if they get poisoned. So he's going to roll 2 dice and he wants a 3 or lower. Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Of course he rolls a 1 and a 2, so that's 2 hits against our soldier. And I don't have any cards to play in response to that, so we're just going to take 2 points of damage. So our soldier's health is actually going to go down 1, 2, 1 for each hit. And then we're going to check and see if he gets poisoned. Now again, if this is a roll of 1 through 3, he will be poisoned. Okay, okay, we got a 6, so we're not poisoned. That's good. I'm already more nervous about these rats. This is I'm an emotional roller coaster at the moment in terms of these rats. It seems easy, but also I'm scared of poison. So that's his first action. Now he does get to take a second action, so he is going to go again and make another attack. Again, this is going to be 3 or less. 2 big fat whiffs. That's fantastic news. That means our soldier is not going to be taking any more damage from this rat. Next, let's go ahead and activate this rat. He can move 2 and either engage with our soldier or our recon. They're both valid targets, they're both within range, and they are tied for defense dice, which means we need to determine randomly which one he's going to target. Now for this, I'm just going to roll one of these blue die, and if it's a shield, he'll be attacking the soldier. If it's a blank, he'll be attacking the recon. Okay, it's a shield, so that means he's going to be attacking the soldier. Now, because we rolled that shield, this rat is actually going to be targeting our soldier. So he's going to move 1, and then we're actually going to interrupt this action with a reaction from our hand of soldier action cards. We're going to be doing this desperate shot, which says ranged attack 1. Now remember, we can do a reaction, we can do 1 per turn, and it can be before, during, or after an enemy's activation. So we can't actually interrupt it in this case. Go ahead and take this shot and then resume the combat as it was. So in this case, it's going to be a range attack with a target number of 1, and we'll go ahead and look at his pistol here to see what else it's augmented. Now, it is only 1 space away, so he gets to roll 3 dice, but there's no modifier to the target number. So he's going to roll 3 dice, but he can only hit on a 1. This is definitely a desperate shot, but let's see if it happens for him. So we're going to be rolling these 3 dice, and again, we are looking for a 1. It's a long shot. Oh, okay, but we did it. All right, so we did get 1-1, which means we successfully hit with our desperate shot. And our desperate shot, our pistol, everything only does 1 point of damage. The rat has no defensive die. He's only got 1 hit point. So we actually kill this rat mid-activation, and he no longer is going to be a bother to us. That's really good news. So that's 1 less rat to deal with. Finally, we do have 1 more rat that needs to activate here, and he's going to go ahead and move 2, 1, 2, and then make an attack against our soldier. And our soldier has very quickly been overwhelmed with rats. I'm starting to get a little nervous. They are swarming very quickly. Remember, the rats have 2 dice on their activations, or on their attack rolls, and we're looking for 3 or lower to hit. Okay. A 2 is going to do it. The 5 is going to be a miss, but we'll go ahead and take 1 more point of damage here on our soldier, bringing him down to 2. And that is going to end the round. Everybody's activated, the rats have gone, we've gone, so the first round of combat has been completed, and we're going to be ready to move into the second round, starting with, I believe, we're going to go ahead and have the recon go. So the recon currently has 3 cards in their hand, so we're going to go ahead and draw 2 more cards. But I'm not going to lie, I think this is going to be a really quick turn. I think all we're going to do is go ahead and spend both of our interactions to repair the car, and that's going to be the end of the combat, and that's going to be the end of the mission. We've repaired the vehicle. We killed a couple rats. We didn't even get close enough to where it was going to be an overrun. I did miss out on these 2 interaction tokens, but I think in this case, considering how quickly these guys were getting in here and how quickly it felt like maybe we were going to get overwhelmed, how quickly our soldiers started to take damage, I'm just going to go ahead and finish the mission, come out ahead, and see what kind of rewards we get. And if we were a little better geared, or our soldier maybe had some armor or something like that, I might stick around and try to grab these. But at this point, it just feels like let's just stop while we're safe before I have to spend another several days just healing and spending our money on healing and all that other stuff. Okay, so once we finish the mission, we're actually going to take a look here at the victory section, which says each character gains 7 experience, 2 food, and the reward for completing this task. And then it says we roll a d6 for each finding. Well, we didn't get any of those, so we're not going to bother doing any rolling there. But if we look at the mission card, it says each character is going to gain 3 food, 2 junk, and any stimulant. So that means everybody's going to gain 7 experience points, 5 food, 2 junk, and a stimulant. That is awesome. We didn't make any money, but I'm not that worried about money at this point. What I really wanted to do was make sure we had enough food so that we could survive. We can trade some things around. We could figure out some other things if we want to build anything. But at this point, I'm feeling very good about this particular mission. I think this is going to be a very nice windfall for our group. Okay, so in addition to the other rewards, which I've already added to the characters' sheets, I am also supposed to pick 1 stimulant for each character. So I was looking at these. There's 3 different stimulants in the game. There is Kicker, Fear Out, and Cat. Kicker and Fear Out are pretty similar. Well, they all basically provide you with a bonus, but they also hurt you a little. The Kicker, for example, here will give you +2 to your accuracy. But you will take 1 damage per turn for 2 turns. So this gives you +2 to your accuracy for 2 turns. Your target number, I should say. It says increase accuracy, but basically it's your target numbers go up by 2, which is very powerful. But you are taking 1 damage each turn, and that lasts 2 turns. And notice it actually has 2 uses, so you can actually use it twice before it goes away, which actually seems quite powerful. Fear Out is a little similar. It does that where it adds +1 to strength per turn for 4 turns, doing 1 point of damage per turn. So if this thing lasts all 4 turns, you've taken 4 damage, which is That's not a small amount by any stretch, but it could be the difference between life and death, I suppose. And cat here allows you to ignore the night rules, and you lose 1 health at the end of the entire thing. Notice these say end of the turn you lose 1 health, and this is 1 health at the end, and it lasts for 12 turns. So the damage is not very high on cat, but its benefit is not nearly as good as some of these other ones. But allowing you to ignore the night rules is pretty solid. But these other ones are just too good. So honestly, the recon is going to go ahead and take the kicker, so that will boost her her ranged combat abilities. I mean, it boosts either. My reading of this is just, it increases your target number, but it will definitely be good for her ranged attacks to get those higher. And then I'm going to go ahead and have the soldier take the fear out here, which is going to increase his strength by +1 per round per turn for up to 4 turns. So I'm going to grab one of these each, and then the rest of these are going to go back in the box, and that will conclude our rewards for completing that mission. Okay, so I've gone ahead and gotten the world set back up here now that we're done with our combat dealing with those rats, and I did a little searching, and I think I know what I want to do next. We're actually, after that, we're both at 16 experience points, so we're very close to leveling up, which you need 24, and I'd love to do that. And I really want to take a lot of those components that we've gathered and maybe do a little bit of crafting, because frankly we're still very money poor, but we have a ton of food each and we have a bunch of those components, so I definitely want to do that. One thing I did want to point out is here on the mission card, it does say required 1 battery, and nowhere in the mission or on here does it actually say you need to discard that. But this required 1 battery, after you've completed this this mission and it tells you to go ahead and gain the rewards, if there is a required section, you have to discard those in order to gain these rewards. So we need to discard 1 battery, and then each character is going to gain all these benefits, which we've already taken. So I did remove that battery component from our recon's inventory as well. So just when you see that required, that means you need to discard that in order to gain those rewards. So we're going to go ahead and move back to New Jensen after dealing with the endangered plantation. I know I still have these old steelworks, and it is day 9, and I do want to deal with this. But before I head out and start doing this, I really want to take some time and see if we can do a little bit of crafting first. So, but before I can craft back at the base, I want to make sure that I have all the components I need. So there's a few steps I want to take. And first is actually going to be kicking off building a new section in the base, which you can do from anywhere. You don't have to be at the base in order to kick off building a new room. You do have to be in the base if you want to start crafting something, but you don't have to be there if you want to start building a room. And I want to start building another room in our base besides just the armory. Now, I thought about it, and I actually want to build 2 rooms in the base. I'm going to be expanding the base with both the forge as well as the lab. The forge is going to allow us to build some new melee weapons, which seem very, very useful. The machete is really good, but anything we can do, and maybe it'd be nice to get a sidearm for our recon. And then the lab, because I actually kind of want to make sure I can build some of those cool implants, and the lab allows us to start having access to those as well as several other cool items. Now, on the back of these cards, it actually shows you the required components for building the building as well as how long it takes. And the base level of each room is actually very cheap. It only costs 1 junk to build those rooms. You're essentially just kind of clearing them out and making space, I think, for those things. And they take 3 days each. So what we're going to do is when you're building these, like I said, you can start building rooms from anywhere, and you don't even have to have the components here in the base, as far as I understand, as far as the rules seem to present it. You can discard them from your character. I imagine maybe you're like paying people to go out and clear out those rooms for you or something like that. So we're gonna go ahead and put the forge here right in the center area. We're gonna take the icon or the token for the forge here, and we're gonna place that on our day tracker 3 days from now. So 1, 2, 3. So on day 12, boy, this is starting to get pretty crowded. On day 12, our forge will be complete. I'm also going to be putting the lab down, and it has the same number of days, 3 days. So 1, 2, 3, our lab will be complete as well. So those are going to take some time to construct, but it'll be nice that they're going to be there. And in order to build those, I simply need to discard 1 junk each in order to build those. So I took those off of my character sheets, and now those are in progress. Now then, it's time to go ahead and head back to New Jensen now that we've started construction on our base. And I did that first simply so that as we move around, we'll actually be moving closer and closer to having those things being available. So we're going to move from the endangered plantation over to New Jensen. Now that is a location to a location, so we need to roll to see if we have a road event. And we do not. No shield means we don't have an event, so we've safely arrived in New Jensen. But a day did pass, so we'll go ahead and move our day tracker up one, which puts us on day 10. Day 10 has the B token on it, so we're going to go ahead and remove the B token from the fight here in under the side, which means we can do the third boxing match, and that might be worth doing. Those have been really good for us so far. Of course, maybe we've been a little lucky, but either way, that is now available to us should we choose to get back into the arena combat. The other thing we need to do is each character needs to discard one food. Each character has plenty of food, so that's no problem. We've discarded that as well. Next, I'm going to go ahead and move to the main square, because what I want to do is I want to do this pump quest that's at the main square. And in order to do the pump quest, I need 1 junk and 1 battery. Now, I don't have any batteries, we just use them, but I can buy one for 4 fuel cells. I still have 1 fuel cell left on my soldier, so all we need to do is do a little bit of trading in order to get access to those batteries. As a result, I'm going to go ahead and sell the electronics that my soldier is currently carrying for 3. So those electronics for 3 plus the 1 fuel cell that we already have means we're going to go ahead and gain a battery and add that to our character. So here is the fuel cell and the electronics that we're going to be discarding, and here's the battery we're going to be gaining as part of that process. So again, this electronics, it sells, just so everybody's following me here, the electronic has a cell value of 3 fuel cells, so I'll get 3 fuel cells from that, and then I'll add that to my 1 fuel cell and buy for 4 1 battery component. Now this pump mission says here, volunteers wanted. The prefect wishes to support the brave and resourceful members of our community, those true pioneers of human civilization who have decided to found a new settlement near New Jensen. In this capacity, the prefect is looking for people willing to deliver components necessary to set up a drilled well. If you have basic survival skills, bravery in your heart, and can handle a gun, the area is wild and full of dangers. You are more than fit to face this task. Any interested candidates have to get the necessary components by themselves and move out immediately. We provide free hauling for any survivors plus night vision goggles and a rifle. Free healing for any survivors plus night vision goggles and a rifle as payment. Stanislaw Zyla on behalf of the Prefect of New Jensen. That's our old friend from the introduction. Now this is pretty crazy. So we're going to set up a location and an event on that location, an event card on that location. We're required to spend 1 junk and 1 battery, and we're going to gain a rifle and night vision goggles and free healing for each character. This seems really, really good. Maybe we should have thought about using this instead of spending all that money on healing, but you know what? Mistakes were made, and that doesn't matter. That's what adventure gaming is all about. I see loot, I want to get loot, so we're going to go ahead and get this set up. We're going to accept this quest, we're going to add this location and an event card, and then we'll see what that looks like. All right, so I've added the pump location here. It is another Danger Zone 1 location out, and then event card 514 under the pump face down. Now, I don't know what this mission is going to be. I assume it's going to be another combat mission of some kind. Maybe we'll have to defend the pump while it's being built. I have no idea what that is. I assume that with a reward of a rifle and night vision goggles that it's going to be challenging for us to get, and they're going to be giving us healing, so it feels like definitely there's going to be some serious business going on here. So I do think I want to actually do just a skosh of healing on our soldier before we go. Oh, and you know what? I just realized I totally forgot to roll to see if we had an event when we moved to New Jensen, or to the main square. Let's just do that real quick. And of course we do, so let's do that real quick. Yellow fumes. While passing what seems to be a catch pit, you see strange yellow fumes emitting from it. Looking around, you see that none of the other people around seem to care. Maybe it's not the first time such a thing happens here? Somewhat intrigued, you move closer to inspect the source. So we can either try to lift the grate and check what's hidden underneath, maybe it's something we could use or sell, or it's best not to get any closer, probably best just to stay away from it. Yellow fumes. I really don't want to get poisoned again, but I'm really curious what this is, so let's go ahead. We're going to investigate. We're going to check it out. They've enticed me with something I could use or sell. You manage to lift the metal obstacle up after a moment of wrestling with it. You look inside the drain that the grate covered. Some small containers with chemicals are hidden there. The whole seems to be a stash of some local gang. One of the containers is damaged and appears to be the source of the fumes. You carefully recover the undamaged containers. Surely someone will pay well for something like this. One of you starts to cough after inhaling some fumes, but nothing too serious, it seems. Best to move away, just in case it's toxic. Gain 1 chemical. Oh, cool. Okay, so we get a chemical. That's awesome. So we'll add that to, we'll give that to the recon. Well, I was thinking about healing, but honestly, I don't have any money. So we're just gonna dive in and we'll see what happens. Let's hope for the best. So first we gotta move to New Jensen, which we'll roll to see if we have an event. And we do. Haunted house.
Hey, mister. Wait a minute. I can't walk as quickly as you.
An old woman stops you at one of several narrow alleys lined with makeshift booths and stalls that pop up in abundance whenever people are doing well. The woman is walking toward you with difficulty. Her cybernetic leg must have broken down many years ago. The old woman is wrapped in a dirty blanket and is wearing a peaked cap with a logo of some long-forgotten football team.
You seem just like people I've been looking for. Well, not you exactly, she gives you a nervous glance. Simply like people who have seen more than their share of bad beef. And your guns, well, you certainly handle them like pros. My home is haunted. I have nowhere to go, and I'm afraid to go back there, even during the day. If you could banish those evil forces, I'll give you some books that show you how to assemble some pretty smart stuff. What do you say? You don't need our help, you need a doctor, one of those who know how to cure mental problems. Go right there around the corner, you'll find one, goodbye. Or, we always help women in need, show us the way. Well, the card's calling me out. I'm going to help her out. This seems kind of nutty, but hey, maybe she does have something of value for us. The old woman leads you a few blocks away. You stop in front of a high stone house with a collapsed roof. 2 broken windows over the front door gaze at you mournfully, and dirty curtains are flapping in the wind, bringing to mind blinking eyelids. You walk closer to the door and draw your weapons, just in case. Who knows what's lurking inside? You gently open the door and enter. Dark storm clouds obscure the sun, making it harder for you to discern exactly what is inside. A few meters further, you notice an outline of wooden stairs. The handrail is covered in rugs. A narrow corridor leads to the side. It ends quickly with a closed door. A large window looking out to the yard can be seen on the opposite side of the room. You can hear something akin to footsteps coming from upstairs. So do we want to go to the side corridor or climb upstairs? We heard footsteps upstairs, so I'm thinking we should just go straight upstairs and see what's going on. We're here to investigate, so let's go upstairs. That's card 202. You climb the stairs, trying not to make too much noise despite the creaky steps. A moment later, you're upstairs and see a half-open door. You come close and overhear a conversation. Listen to me, Hans. That old crone is almost dead. A few more nights and she'll describe the whole route to us. She can't remember it normally, but when she's stressed out or wakes up suddenly, old memories come back to her. We already know a little. Once we learn where the hideout is, we'll be rich. Okay, it's ready. Let's do it. The door opens and you face a man who looks even more surprised than you. He is alone, although you'd swear he was talking to someone in the room. Or maybe for a lack of company, he talks to himself? The man quickly regains his bearings and lunges at you. This might be bad luck, or maybe more powerful forces are at work here, but he slips and slams into a rail. The rail breaks under his blow. The stranger falls down straight to the first floor in a cloud of wooden splinters. You look at him. He's lying on the floor, his head bent unnaturally to one side. This house is definitely haunted, but there's other stuff going on as well. You get back to the street and explain to the old woman that her house is not haunted. She looks carefully at the corpse. This is Hans. He brought me fresh water every day. She spits at the man. He seemed suspicious from the very moment I met him. No wonder he feigned being a friend. Take this maggot from my sight.
Her eyes shine with anger.
Well, here's your reward.
She enters a room and checks the drawers.
Please take those. Maybe you'll find it useful.
Each character gains 2 experience points, 1 morale token, and we get a frag grenade and a machete. Whoa, cool. Okay. Well, this lady's haunted house was worth investigating, definitely. Now, we've definitely seen the machete before. Our soldier has been doing lots of damage with this thing. And frankly, I'm very tempted to keep this, but we actually don't have room in the inventory for the recon to carry two double wide items. She's only got 3 slots, so we can't actually keep the machete for her, so we might end up selling it. And the frag grenade's cool, and it does have some rules that we haven't touched on before, which is these blast attacks or area attacks. So the frag grenade, which does have 2 uses here, does an area attack when you throw it, which is kind of what you'd expect, right? It's a frag grenade after all. Area attacks are not all that different from ranged attacks. In fact, the rules actually say that anytime something talks about ranged attacks, that can also be applied to an area attack. So like if you have a card that makes a ranged attack, gives you a reroll, it could affect this as well. The way that these work is essentially they target a space instead of a single figure, and they affect every single figure, whether it's a character or an enemy, in that space. Or every single combatant, I should say, in that space, regardless of whether they're hunters or they're enemies. And in this case, you can see that the range here is 1 and it rolls 5 dice. The target number is 0. So you would want to use this in conjunction with another card, ranged attack 3 maybe, or area attack. But five dice is quite powerful. And it can't be used in melee. So we're definitely going to want to put this probably on our recon. They can carry it around and use it. And this machete, I'm thinking we might sell. Now, the machete, unfortunately, it does not look like there's anywhere in the game right now that we can actually sell a machete yet. Something hasn't come out. I'm sure there'll be a location later that will allow us to do so. So we're going to go ahead and actually, we're going to keep this on our characters. You can put them in the bag slots at the top. Any items can go in those bag slots at the top, but only these blue items can be used from those spaces when you're actually in combat. So I'll have this in those slots for my recon, but she won't be able to use it because it's not this blue type of item. But we'll keep that with her for now, and we'll probably drop it off at the base later until something becomes available where we could sell it. But this frag grenade, like I mentioned, that's going to go ahead and I'm going to give that to the recon to equip. Now then, event aside, we are going to go ahead and move from New Jensen over to the pump. And now I'm even more excited. I'm really hoping the pump results in some XP because we are very close to leveling up. We only need 2 more experience each, which is awesome. So we're going to go ahead and go do this pump activity. That is going to be, first we're going to roll and see if we have an event. It's a road event, so the danger level is 1. And we do have a road event. Blizzard. A terrible blizzard has been blasting cold and frost into your faces for at least an hour. Remember, this is supposed to be summer, so this is more of that frozen god cult. Very strange stuff. The whole landscape before you is hidden behind a grayish veil of falling snow. To make matters worse, you see no place that you could provide even a modicum of shelter. You chance upon a fork in the road, but you cannot make a rational choice under the circumstances. Right or left? I'm going to roll a dice here, and we're going to say odd is right. Or actually, let's just do this. We'll roll this. If we get the shield, we'll go right. If we get the blank, we'll go left. Okay, looks like we're going to go ahead and head right. It's already an hour since you chose this path, but you can't recognize the surrounding area at all. You notice something metallic shining among the rocks. Once you wipe off a layer of snow, you identify frozen remains of a mech, the likes of which you've never seen before. Interesting. You may spend the rest of the day on disassembling all interesting parts from it, 216 option A, or 216 option B. You waste no time on this wreck and keep looking for the right path. I'm going to go ahead and do this. I'm guessing this is going to make us spend an extra day on our travel, but we're fat with food, so I think we're okay. And if we get some cool components, that's even better, because we need lots of stuff so we can make some cool stuff in our new buildings, or our new rooms. So we're going to go ahead and grab card 216, and we'll do option A. After a few hours of hard work, during which you've been protected from the blizzard by some canvas sheets, you manage to gut the mech. You take everything you can, considering you have no special tools. Unfortunately, working in such conditions could only result in frostbites. In the evening, the weather calms and you can continue your journey. So each character gains 2 junk, 1 firearms, but loses 1 health. Well, that's okay, although it brings our soldier down to 1 hit point. And one thing I haven't really been affected by, but if you have a character that's unconscious, every time you spend a day, it takes 2 days, just because, you're dragging an unconscious person around. So he's down to 1 hit point left. We definitely don't want him taking any more damage, and we're going to go to that pump. I'm a little concerned, but I'm going to be excited about getting some sweet loot, so we're not going to worry about it. And this +1 day means it's basically going to take 2 days for us to do all this stuff. So I'm going to get everything updated, and then we'll come back. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move our day tracker up 2 days. So first one is going to bring us in line with this C, which is going to allow us to actually meet up with Red Jack's friend over at the parking lot. So the plot continues there, and then we're going to move up 1 more day, which actually is going to complete the construction on our lab and our forge. So these actually will flip over now. So now they're available for us to purchase. And I'm going to do the same thing with these that I did when I first got my armory, which is I'm going to go through all the blueprints and find all the ones that are available so I can kind of thumb through them. And then remember, I still need to purchase blueprints in order to be able to even manufacture anything in the first place. I also decided I wanted to go ahead and pay 1 more junk to build the gunsmith. And the main reason is because we've gotten so many firearms that I thought, I haven't really looked ahead at anything, but it just seemed like it might behoove us to have this gunsmith available to us since we have all those components. So we'll discard the 1 junk, and then we'll go ahead and put the gunsmith token here on the map for 1, 2, 3 days from now, which is going to be the same day that this event card 615 happens, which is some serious event that I'm not sure what that's going to be, but we'll see. We're getting very close to it, and as time continues on. The last thing is each of these completed ones needs one of these time tracker tokens, just like we have here on the armory, and that's for tracking when you are actually crafting items. I actually did a bunch of research, and I thought about it and decided instead of the gunsmith, just based on what's available to me and what components I have, instead I'm going to be building the workshop, which is going to give us access to a bunch of kind of add-ons and some other cool stuff. I think we've got some pretty good guns. We've got a rifle coming. We've got a submachine gun. I'm not too worried about guns. And we get access to quite a few things with this. So instead of the gun shop, I'm actually going to go ahead and get this being built instead. So that'll be ready in 3 days. Otherwise, everything else stays the same. And I went ahead and did a bit of planning in terms of what I'm going to build here. I think the one thing that I haven't really touched on yet in these videos is how the crafting system works. So I'm going to make sure that after we complete this pump event, which hopefully won't be too big of a deal, we can look at doing some crafting so you guys can see how all that works. All right, and with that movement and event done, we're through the blizzard, and now we are at the pump, and let's go ahead and interact with this card and see what our mission is really all about here at the pump. Pump. Once there, you encounter a dozen men in dirty overalls. They are working in a shallow basin among bare rocks. A few worn-out tents have been set up around this place. Tools and equipment are neatly piled here and there. Are you from New Jensen? Has the prefect finally sent us the components we need? A heavy-set girl passes each of you a mug of cold water, freshly drafted from the cistern. She has a very masculine voice, but that's besides the point. Water is crucial to further colonization. Without an independent water source, we simply can't move forward with our work. When you return in a couple of months, you won't recognize this place. We're planning to raise sturdy brick houses, set up a plantation, and bring sheep. Thank the prefect for us, though I suppose that old thief is probably helping us only to tax the place sooner. You say goodbye to the settlers and return to New Jensen. That was it. We didn't have to do anything. Okay, so we each gain 5 experience points. We can heal all of our wounds for free. And in New Jensen, once we return, we're going to get the rifle and the night vision goggles. Now, as a reminder, we do have to discard this, the component and the battery here. Now, I know it's printed on both of these, and the last one there were 2 separate wards. I know we don't get this twice. We're just going to get this once, but we are also going to gain that 5 experience points each, which is going to be enough to level our characters up to level 2, which is a thing that we have to actually choose to do. So let's get everything all set up. So as part of the rewards for that mission, we gained some night vision goggles, which we already have a set on our recon, so now we have a set that our soldier can wear as well, which is really cool, allows us to ignore the nighttime rules. And then check out this bonkers rifle. This thing is absolutely insane. So So it's a ranged weapon. It's also can be used in melee, and it has auto fire, and it's got a single point upgrade as well as a double point upgrade. So this could be something like a grenade launcher can fit in here. This could be an extra mag or a special type of ammo. The range is better than our submachine gun, and it looks like it rolls a pretty impressive amount of dice as well. I'm very excited for this rifle. I feel like we're really equipped and kitted out now. Especially since there's only 2 of us, we don't really need too much more equipment other than some armor, which I'm going to be working on next. So our recon's going to go ahead and get this rifle. We're going to give the night vision goggles to the soldier, and we're going to make sure that we rearrange things in such a way that nothing gets discarded before we head to the base, where we can start putting stuff in storage. So before I head down to New Jensen to collect my rewards for that pump quest, I'm actually going to do just one other stop. It's actually quite a long ways, but I want to get everything set up so that I can do some crafting. And I want to make some armor, but unfortunately the only place that sells the blueprint for armor is up here in El Infierno at the armory. So we're going to need to travel to El Infierno, go to the armory, purchase that scrap armor, and then, or the blueprint for the scrap armor, then head to the base to actually start building that scrap armor out. I'll show you how that whole process works. So first, you're familiar with this. We're going to go ahead and move from one location to another location, and we'll just pull this over and we'll do some... We'll see if we get an event. No event for the road. Then we'll move from El Infierno to, we actually need to go to the tech square first because I need 3 fuel cells in order to buy the blueprint, and I have none, so we're going to have to sell some components. I do have quite a bit of components. I have a number of firearms, and I'm actually going to go ahead and sell 4 firearms because I don't have any that I need to build right now, and frankly, I need money. So we're going to sell all 4 of the firearms tokens that we have, and that's going to get us 8 fuel cells. But we need to roll an event to make sure that we don't have a city event on the way there. Okay, no event. That's good. So we don't have an event when we move here. We do all of our selling, and now we have 8 fuel cells. So we'll go ahead and move to the armory. Check again to see if we have an event. No event. Whew, got lucky there. We're going to go ahead and buy the blueprint for scrap armor for 3. Now, there's a lot of steps to crafting that you have to keep in mind before you can even actually get started with crafting, and we're kind of going through that right now. Essentially, you need to have the building in your, you need to have the room in your base in order to build it. It needs to be the right level. Then you need to buy the blueprint, which you can see here costs 3 fuel cells. So we'll go ahead and give them 3 fuel cells off our character sheet, and we'll keep 5, and then we're going to grab the scrap armor blueprint. And scrap armor blueprint gives us the ability to actually manufacture this item and actually tells us how much it costs. There's quite a bit of information here. So this is the building that it's constructed in and what level building you need to have. Here is the cost. So in this case, it costs 6 junk components to build. Here is the amount of time it takes to manufacture that item and the type of item that you will be creating. So in this case, we're going to be building some scrap armor. And just to show you what that looks like, here is the scrap armor token. So you can see here, this is a piece of armor, and it gives us 1 in all armor types. It gives us 1 melee armor, 1 blast armor, 1 armor from the front, 1 from the sides, and 1 from the back. Frankly, the ability to roll a defense die and make every damage a 50% chance instead of 100% chance is huge in my opinion. So I'm very excited to get this thing going. So I'm going to add this blueprint card here for scrap armor to my collection. So of 0 now 1, because I have 1 card for 1 blueprint for things that I can craft. But I've actually, you can see here, this is all the stuff that I have access to based on the buildings that I've constructed. So, but this is the only one that I can actually build. So we're going to go ahead and put this next to my base so I remember that I have it. So at this point, I want to head to my base. So in order to travel to my base, first I need to move to the El Infierno location so that I can move from one location to another, and we'll see if we have an event. And we do not. And then we're going to move from the El Infierno location to the base location. Now the base is always considered at zone 1, so the 1 skull danger level for road events, and we still need to roll to see if we encounter an event on the way there, and it does take a day to travel there, which moves us to day 14. So we're getting pretty high up there. This card up here at the Steelworks is going to be my top priority after I get my armor to begin construction. And before we do that though, let's go ahead and see if we have an event on the road. And we do not. We got really lucky with events on the end there. So no event on the road, which brings us to the base. Interestingly, even though we've been playing for 14 days, this is our first time actually heading to the base ever. And there's a few things to keep in mind while you're at the base. One is as soon as you enter the base, everyone heals 1 hit point, even people that are unconscious. So that's one way to kind of get some healing for free, is to head to the base and you get 1 hit point back. And you can actually spend time here resting if you'd like in order to gain more hit points back. But I'm not here to rest. Actually, both of our characters are at full. What I am here to do is start construction on some scrap armor, like we talked about before. So let's talk really quickly through the process of actually creating this item. So the first thing we want to do is make sure that we have the blueprint, and we just purchased that, so we do have the blueprint. The next thing we need to do is discard the components in order to build it. Now the components can be stored either on your character sheets while you're at the base, or they can be stored here in these spaces. There's 4 spaces here, and each one of them is for each player. So you can actually use these as kind of storage rooms for equipment that you're not actually using. For example, that machete and potentially other items will be stored here since we're not using them. Now for the scrap armor, we need 6 junk. Now from all of our exploits, I actually have exactly 6 junk in my collection, so I am all set. I will go ahead and discard these 6 junk to begin the construction process for my scrap armor. Next, I need to look at how long is it going to take to build. In this case, the scrap armor is kind of a tier 1, which is the only thing we can actually build. You'll see in this version of the room, as we add onto the room, there's actually more circles for more advanced items to be crafted. In this case, it's only a tier 1, which means it's going to take 2 days to craft. So as soon as you decide you want to start building it, you're going to go ahead and place the time tracker on the first space, and then every time the day passes, in addition to moving the day track and everything else, spending food and all those other things, this needs to move up. And once this has reached the point where it matches the symbol on the blueprint card that you're crafting, the item will be completed and placed in the storage for the person who initiated the crafting in the first place. So in just a couple short days, my scrap armor will be finished and ready for me to use. The last thing we need to cover is actually leveling up. We actually now have enough experience points collected on our characters to level them up to level 2. So in order to level up, we need to discard the amount of experience that is displayed over the level that we're moving to. So in this case, we need to discard 20 experience from our collected experience pool, which we have plus a little extra. So the soldier will discard 20 experience, leaving him with 3 remaining. And then a couple things happen. One, the HP tracker moves up to the next level. Note that your health does not move up. It does not improve. It stays at the same level. So we'll actually need to heal up in order to be able to take full advantage of our new HP pool, but it is available. So now we are level 2 and we've got a little more hit points. So in addition to increasing our hit point pool, we also get to add some new cards to our deck. So for every time you level up, every character has 7 unique cards at each level that they're going to be able to add to their deck. Well, they're not all unique. There's 2 copies of 3 cards and then a skill card. So these cards will go into your normal combat deck so that you could draw them as part of your different combat scenarios. And then these skill cards actually are tucked under your character sheet and have some cool bonus. So for example, here the soldier, I can make his basic melee action a 2 target number action instead of just 1, which is pretty powerful. The only other thing, actually, this is one of the only cards that's misprinted. Majorly misprinted. There are several little misprints and some errata that's available on Board Game Geek, but this one here is still written in Polish, but no worries. It just means ranged attack 2, ranged attack 2. So you can just keep that in mind if you end up picking this card. Now, for your character, you actually get to pick 4 to add to your deck. So there's 7 available, but you only get to choose 4 of these. And the other interesting thing is your deck is always 25 cards, which is what you have at the start of the campaign. So when you start a combat scenario, you actually have to whittle your deck down to 25 cards before you start. So in the case of the soldier, I'm going to stick with the theme that we've had so far, which is melee. So he's got lots of ranged attacks in here. These are sorry, these are double ranged attacks here. Here's a high accuracy ranged attack, and then forward leap, move 2 spaces, and melee attack 3. We're definitely going to add both copies of forward leap to our deck, and that's 2 of our 4 choices. And I think what I'm going to do is actually go with weak spot and the skill card, which will just increase the power of our basic melee attack action, which seems certainly worth doing. We haven't done it yet, but I feel like there's going to be cases where it's like, gosh, I don't have any of those cards, and I really wish that the basic melee action wasn't a target number 1. This should make it quite powerful. So we're going to add both of these, and then the rest of these are essentially removed from the game, which gives some replayability because I've really built my soldier as a melee character now. I am ignoring quite a bit of these ranged attack cards. So the process for leveling up our recon is basically the same. We're going to increase, well, first we'll spend our 20 experience points, so 5, 5, and 10, leaving us with 3, just like our soldier. We'll go ahead and move our health tracker up 1 step, leaving our health where it is for right now, but now we can heal all the way up to this many hit points. Now, just like the soldier, in addition to increasing our hit point maximum, we get to look at some cards and add 4 to our deck. And the recon has some cool cards. Twin targets here lets you attack 2 ranged, or do 2 ranged attacks. Stop bleeding, really cool, lower by up to 2 the number of wounds or health lost during this action. This only affects you, but still is kind of a really good way to kind of protect yourself. I like that the recon has some medic-y stuff since we don't have the medic. Quick reflexes here is really interesting. Would have been cool in this actual encounter, which is interact and then make a ranged attack. So it allows you to do an interaction, which could be like throwing a grenade or picking somebody up off the ground or interacting on the map or interacting with findings, all that stuff. So this is really interesting to me because it will make those interactions less costly in terms of action economy. And then we have Ploy, which allows us to make a melee attack at 1 less die and then make a parting leap, which is kind of cool. This is a good way to get out of a melee combat, or use the enhancement here to re-roll a die. And then their skill is on every level starting at the next one, you get 5 action cards instead of 4. So for the next 4 levels of the game, you're going to get 5 more cards to pick instead of just 4, which is really powerful. So I think what I'm going to do, I think I'm going to pick quick reflexes twice. I just think that's really good. I think I'm going to go ahead and grab the skill card because that does seem pretty neat and especially makes future level ups better. And then I'm going to pick this twin targets because it's very useful. This card is great no matter what. Like if it's in my hand, I'm in a good spot because I can make 2 attacks or I can deflect some damage. I'm really happy with this card, so we're going to put that into the group as well. And these are removed from the game. Well, guys, I think that's going to be it for this video. We've done quite a bit of things. We got into a fight with some rats. We did some more exploring. We did some crafting. We leveled up our characters. And we've really delved deep into the world of the hunters. We're on day 14, so we're 2 weeks in of the 56-day-long campaign. I think we've seen a lot of stuff. And I actually think I'm going to go ahead and call that the series for the hunters. At least for now. I feel like this series is definitely, my goal for this channel is for you to be able to see what the game looks like when you open it, learn how to set the game up, and then hopefully walk you through enough stuff that you know how to play the game as well as what the game is when you're looking at potentially picking it up. I'm hoping that this series would be really great for folks that are looking at the Kickstarter that's going to be on from the 27th of April moving forward, where there's going to be a reprint and expansion available for the campaign or for the game. If you're really curious what the game is like, I hope this has really helped you guys. And if you, as usual, you know, please like the video, please comment. I'd love to read your comments. I really want to interact with my community. So far, you know, the community's been fairly active. I really enjoy seeing what you guys have to say, thinking about, you know, you guys helping me see mistakes that I make in a game as complicated as this. It's definitely likely that I make mistakes pretty commonly. And, you know, if you like the content, you want to see what's coming up next, definitely give me a subscribe, hit the bell if you want to get a notification when those videos go live. Otherwise, no matter what, you know, thanks so much for taking the time to watch my videos. I really appreciate it. I hope they've been helpful. I hope they're entertaining. I hope they're interesting. And we'll see you for the next series on the next game, which I'm not sure what that's going to be just yet. But we'll get it on the table, we'll get it unboxed, we'll get it out, and we'll see how to play. So until next time, viewers, watch out for those trapped chests.